In this video, we're going to talk about ego attacks, what they are, and how ego attacks may be blocking you from manifesting your desires. Stay tuned for the solution and everything you need to know. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tom, and I make videos that help you empower your higher self and manifest your dream life. If you'd like to win 60 minutes of one-on-one coaching with me, comment below "it is done." Winners are announced every week. What is an ego attack? Let's look at that firstly. This is where you're learning about the law of attraction. You have a foundational knowledge about that. Or personal growth at large and personal development. And you've set yourself a goal, whether that's an internal shift in confidence, self-worth, self-love, anything of that nature, or you have an external goal, a relationship, a career, a financial situation, anything of that nature externally. And you're working towards it. You're applying techniques, you're making inner shifts, you're taking external action, and things seem to be going well. And especially as you get into the manifestation side of things, you can start to really be purifying your internal world and starting to meet that fourth density way of living, where you're flowing from your heart more and you're in this sense of faith quite consistently. Now, not always, this is quite an advanced step, but it's where mankind is heading in our evolution of our consciousness. But nonetheless, all of a sudden, we're making this progress and then we feel under attack by our own minds. For example, not long ago, can't remember, a couple of days ago, I started reading this book on the subconscious mind, a new fresh book by Joseph Murphy. Maybe you've heard of him. And this book had amazing ideas such as be constantly feeding your mind with positive thoughts and positive thoughts and positive thoughts and always focusing on what you want, like a constant reel and ream of positive thoughts that you're consciously choosing to play out throughout your day. And I thought this was a cool idea, so I started applying it when I felt like my thinking mind wanted something to do. I really focused on making my thoughts be positive and saying things like, everything's working out for me, large sums of money come to me, I'm manifesting my dreams effortlessly, I am doing this correctly, life is good, life is a blessing, all of this kind of stuff. I just kept making these positive impressions within me, within my subconscious, which, as you, I'm sure, know, manifests your desires on the screen of space when you impress it. And I made such a positive impression that day that the following day I woke up and this inexplainable negativity was within me. And I literally got out of bed and I could hear my thoughts. I could hear them saying all these kind of awful things. It was my ego. And it was saying things like, you're worthless, what are you doing, who do you think you are, you can't achieve this, life is bad, there's so much struggle ahead, there's so many obstacles, you're screwed in life. And I was just baffled by it because I could see these thoughts coming up because I'd done a lot of meditation and I have awareness over them now. And it was ridiculous, but yet they were so powerful and they were so gripping. And I felt so bogged down in this negative thinking and the negative energy in my body. There was almost like this rage, almost like this kind of like bee's nest had been shaken within me, and they were all buzzing around and they were all angry and hostile, and this negative force was coming over me. That's what an ego attack is. So that brings us to point number 2. What is the ego? Well, I like Aaron Abke's definition that the ego is simply a mind program. It's like a robot. It's not actually us, it's just conditioned thoughts appearing within our consciousness. Ego is a thought program that is derived from our survival instincts, our survival drive, our need to protect ourselves and to live in fear in terms of the evolutionary process, and our drive towards surviving and keeping the genes of mankind alive. And so these thoughts come up on automatic programs, and they're often guilt-based, fear-based, and they importantly make you feel negative. And they just come up and come up and come up and come up, even when you're doing things completely right. And not only that, is that we actually become so addicted to this kind of mechanism within us, that's not actually us, that we place our awareness so directly over the top of these thoughts. It's like an overlay that these thoughts appear that they are just us. There's no distinction between the true higher self, the loving, eternal us, the awareness us, the pure consciousness us, and the thought mechanism that the ego is, the robotic mind the ego is. And so they blend into one, and that leads us to react and create our reality from a reactive base, where we actually believe these thoughts and we become consumed by them, and we actually meet their level of consciousness, and we allow that to infect our state of being and create our reality from that point. So when we have these attacks, all of a sudden we feel really worthless. We actually believe the doubts, we believe the fears and the worries and the anxieties and the limiting beliefs because they're so compelling, and we've been so conditioned to believe that this negative fear-based mind is actually us and not a mere program that's just appearing. But we have to realize that it is just a program. It's not truly us. And the true you is the conscious, higher self version of you that flows with love, that flows in faith, that has positive, conscious, and empowering thoughts that make you feel good, that uplift you, that empower your free will, and proactively create your reality. That's who you truly are. Now, when we do this, we get manifestation success, but most importantly, inner balance. This is the peace, the joy, the happiness in a balanced, consistent, and strong way that can't be shaken because we're so bought into the true self and we don't believe the ego at all. How do you get to this state where we both manifest in the outer world and in the inner world we live in harmony and peace? Firstly, step number one is to hang up your gloves. Picture your higher self and your ego are like two boxers in a UFC ring, and the ego starts throwing punches at you and says you have to fight back. And as soon as this loving you starts fighting back, the ego starts getting a couple of punches in at you. And even if you get a couple of punches back at your ego, it still feels bad. Everything about it is bad. Nothing good can come from this fight. And often the ego is so powerful that it beats you into submission. And therefore you believe it's true. You believe it's a better fighter. You believe what it says is true. You believe that its punches are real. And that this is how reality works. So you really can't win in this fight. It's about waking up to realize that you don't have to be in this arena. This isn't your career. This isn't your calling. You can be somewhere else completely. And you can also make peace with the fact that the ego is where it needs to be in that ring. That is its authentic place and calling, if you like, but not the true you. So you let it be, you let it fight, you let it swing, you let it kick, but you let it do it to itself without an opponent, because you simply surrender and say you win. You win in this fight. This is not my fight. So the key thing is to recognize that these thoughts that appear, it's not about changing them necessarily, especially when you're in the heat of the moment. It's about letting them go. Letting them go and letting them play out and letting the emotions play out and letting them do those things, letting them dance around the ring without feeling like you need to fight them, without feeling like you need to control them and defeat them. Just let them go, let them be, let them do their thing without identifying with them. But to hang up our gloves, we have to equip ourselves. That's point number 2. And this is to do everything in our own power before these attacks and even during these attacks to ensure that we realize we can walk out of the arena and get out of there. Now, what are these practical steps that equip you? One is meditation or yoga. Yoga purifies your state of being to rid yourself of negative emotions and keep your energy flowing in a positive and pure and uplifting state of frequency, state of being. Meditation increases the awareness between the ego thought and the you. And so there's no overlay and they don't just fire out and you don't just instantly become the thoughts. you see there's a separation. You see thoughts and you see you. You are over here, the thoughts are over here. It's not like this, it's like this. There's big space. That space is you walking out of the arena. When you don't meditate, or you don't have any awareness building exercise in your life on a daily basis, we're talking about 15 minutes here, not long to gain that space. But if you don't do it, you have no way of having awareness and you become the thoughts, and therefore you're automatically in the fight. And then beyond that awareness or emotional purifying process, there's simply the manifestation techniques that equip you with building up new cycles from your higher self. Because unlike your ego mind, which is that robotic, negative, fear-based thought mechanism and emotional inducer, your higher self is the opposite. It's the joyful, empowered, loving, conscious, happy thoughts and emotions. And so throughout your day, you absolutely still should do those manifestation techniques. And I cover a bunch of them on my channel. But the point is, these are thoughts about how you are the creator, how you do have free will, how things work out for you, how you're totally safe in the universe, how everything is positive, how you are truly eternal, whole and complete, how your manifestation is right here and now for you to enjoy, how life is good and okay and always will be and always has been for you. All of this, you feel that frequency. You create that momentum consciously in yourself. And you also use your imagination as a part of this to bring your scenes to life, to bring your dream life alive in your consciousness. This is all part of that equipping process. That moves me to point number 3, which is accept the habit building process. It's to realize that there is some pain and struggle in aligning with your higher self. Now don't turn that into a limiting belief. There doesn't have to be. You could be like an Eckhart Tolle where in one night you wake up to the true self and you're aligned from then on. It can happen. It can happen very quickly. But at the same time, I am talking about my own experiences, and I know that there are challenges in letting go of this fight with the ego and vamping up the new wheels of motion and momentum in this positive, self-loving state of being and thoughts and beliefs and patterns and habits. This is just a slow process. And why? Well, because the ego has had us under its control. It's had us believing it is real and worth fighting and worth listening to. And it's kept us in a bandwidth of fear-based and lack-based consciousness. And we're actually quite comfortable in this, even though we don't enjoy it. We're quite comfortable because the ego prevents us from truly experiencing joy and our desires and going after our dream lives. But when we make that shift, we automatically shift into new frequencies of consciousness. New possibilities open up. New habits are built. New actions, new opportunities. And if we have an attachment and conditioning in that old self which says we're not worthy of love and success and joy and happiness, and we start to make patterns towards us, this is when those backlashes come up. This is when those attacks come up. It's saying, you are moving out of safety. Get back in. You don't deserve this. So there is some struggle here to persist through this and to disempower the ego and its control and influence over you over time. You have to accept that this is a process and you're purifying yourself and you're cleaning up yourself internally and you are loving and empowering yourself, and that takes time. But you are progressing, and you know you are truly winning when you realize that you are not the ego thoughts. You are eternally worthy and you are a loving divine consciousness. And that is who you truly are. And you can feel joy all the time. And that is where we are heading in humanity. It's so exciting because we actually are moving into this new frequency of consciousness, this new sense of consistent love and joy and peace within us is possible. So that's the 3 key steps. And overall, the ego is not a bad thing. So don't think it is. Love it, but set it aside. It's not you. And always keep the faith in yourself, in the power within you. Always keep that faith, no matter what's happening, no matter how much your ego is trying to convince you that you really are stuck here, that you really are worthless, that life really is bad. It is absolutely not true, and this too shall pass. Always remember that this too shall pass, and give way to a new blossoming of positivity in your life for you. So that's all for today. If you like this video, please like it. Please leave me a comment and subscribe to my channel. And check out my website if you'd like to have a one-on-one coaching session with me. I'd love to have you for a session. Stay tuned for more videos on these topics in the future.